Oh, what? I thought all my banter there was going out. That sucks.
Oh, sorry everyone, you didn't get all of the cool bants, but welcome. We're doing a stream again. It's Friday. That must mean it's time for me to dunk on the Labour Party. Good evening, everyone. Hope you're ready. Yes, R.I.P. indeed. Poor Jack didn't get his banter out.
Yeah, it was really fire stuff. Trust me.
Anyway, it's slightly. It was actually really funny, to be fair, but we're doing something a little bit different because I want to be the opinion haver tonight, and so therefore I had to get outside arbitration in the form of James, because he is required to not have an opinion on this. Oh, they are required not to have an opinion on this. Apologies, James.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Yes, I am very much required not to have an opinion tonight. It's a strange luxury. I'm not used to it. I'm used to people demanding my opinion, so I'm going to enjoy this.
Yeah.
It's probably for the best, because these days they'll put you in jail just for having an opinion.
I mean, especially in Bristol West.
Controversial already. I'm liking it.
That was actually in my notes. That I was just going to do a really short introduction, but we've kind of already summed it up. But basically, the Labour left are fucking useless. I'm already doing my opinions. I'm sorry, James. You should take over immediately because I'm unable to control myself.
Yeah, let's hold on a second, because we will get to all of that. I think we should start with introductions. I'm James. Full disclosure, so everyone knows where I'm coming from. I am not now, nor have I ever been, a member of the Communist Party or the Labour Party. I'm actually a member of the Scottish Green Party. And that is probably not going to be relevant tonight, but I feel I should mention it to explain where I'm kind of coming from. I have no dog in this fight. I've got no real interest in the inner politics of Labour and all their drama. What I'm interested in is popcorn sales, and popcorn sales are good right now. So that's it. I'm playing the role of moderator, trying to prevent Sinan and, maybe Dave. Wait, are we going by names on this? Or is it sanitary nap time?
No, it's David. That's absolutely
okay.
David on the pod. It's David Heal.
Cool. Just double checking. So I'm going to be trying to prevent Sinan and David from murdering each other during the course of this. We'll see how I get on.
Even though we agree.
With that yeah, pretty much. With that in mind, I'd like you each to introduce yourself in turn. But as part of that, I'd like you to just give a broad statement on how you feel about the Labour Party. Not too in-depth, because we're going to be getting to that, but just to kind of set the tone, if you will, to see where everyone stands. And so, Sinan, you don't need an introduction, but this is your gaff, so do you want to go first?
Yeah, I will do an introduction. I am the extremely handsome regular host of this, who you should all be listening to, instead of all of these other people who will have much more moderate and wrong opinions than me. But just a short thing about where I am with the Labour Party is I was a member, I'm not a member now. I basically made the decision in May to pretty much not be a member anymore, but I just sort of ran out the clock with that. And I generally just want to do Keith dunking and make his life as miserable as possible. But the basic point I'm making tonight, or the position that I'm going to take tonight, is why are we here? We're not here because we like the colour red and rose iconography. We're here because we want to press the socialism button. And it's pretty obvious that with the leadership that the Labour left has, we can't press the socialism button because they're completely inept and unable to even muster up basic solidarity with one of their own, or any of their own. And it's being left to regular members who, God bless them, are trying, but they just, they're going to get suspended for it. I feel like we've seen what staying and fighting looks like, and it results in you getting suspended anyway. Let's just move on with our lives and try and actively harm the Labour Party. Why not? It sounds like good fun to me.
Oh, that sounds like a really good starting point, starting with a bang. All right, for a bit of moderation. Chloe, why don't you introduce yourself?
I don't know why I come on these streams when I'm always the moderate. So I'm Chloe. I am a member of the Labour Party. I'm a branch chair and at the moment, because of certain changes to our membership, I'm also our campaigns officer for the CLP. So there are certain things on which I do not have any kind of an opinion. My Labour Party locally, I'm very proud to be a member of. There's a lot of really good people that I work with locally, and I think that I want to stay in especially for them, but also to try and push the left within Labour. But in terms of the national picture, it's not been encouraging, I'll be honest.
Yep, I think even as an outside observer, I can see that the currently what's the current joke? 20 points ahead should be. Yeah.
30 actually now. It's been upgraded.
Oh wow! Events for the past 24 hours are moving quickly. So, all right, David, bring us back to Fire and Brimstone. Give us your introduction.
Hello, I'm David from Podcasting's Praxis, and I think the Labour Party is bad. It's very bad.
I agree.
It's pointless now. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy. It's just a waste in general. You would be sooner to find positive change in the heat death of the universe, bringing entropy to free us all, before you would actually receive any from the Labour Party. Nothing's going to change. It's locked in, and I would like it destroyed. Make it go away.
A nice upbeat introduction now, David. Loving it. You know, feels good. And last but by no means least, Jack, why don't you give us an introduction?
Well, firstly, I'd like to shout out our friends and sponsors in the cinema industry. It's been some hard times recently with the possibility that people will never, be out in the cinema seeing films again. But I'm glad that these companies' popcorn subsidiaries are still going from strength to strength. That's something reassuring. Secondly, I'd like to reject the assertion that I will be bringing anything in any way moderate to this discussion. That is totally against everything I stand for, and goes against my very sense of self. So I will then caveat that by saying that yes, I am still in the Labour Party, but with the suspension of my friend Isaac Hopkins, I am not sure how long that will last. I've been very vocal in my support of Jeremy Corbyn. Admittedly, I haven't been doing so at a kind of level of local party democracy like he has, which I believe is where his vexatious suspension has arisen from. But as far as I'm concerned, it's all hands on deck at the moment in terms of opposing Keir Starmer's viciously reactionary and anti-democratic war on the left, which I think is the defining feature of his malign travesty of a leadership.
Well, I think we've got a good. I wouldn't say we've got a good variance of viewpoints here, but we do have a kind of sliding scale from Chloe to Jack to Sinan to really far out there at the heat death of universe, David. So I think this will be quite good tonight. All right, I want a good clean fight. Okay. No ad hominems, no eye gouging, no columns in the Guardian, and just try and keep it clean. I'm going to start by asking a question, and you can all kind of chime in, and we'll have a discussion about it. If I feel things are getting too heated, or I feel someone's not getting time to speak, I'll interject. But otherwise, I'm going to let you guys do your thing. My first question kind of directly comes off what you just said, Jack. So thank you for that. Is the Labour Party at present a democratic institution?
Ha!
No, the answer is no. Of course not. It's about, if the Labour Party were a Latin American country, America would have already been justifying a coup on it. That's, that's the level,
Like, they've literally done their equivalent of, like, when Morales had to flee the country or when Lula got put in jail. Like, if you look at the Labour Party as a state,
Can we get a graphic made of Keith fleeing the country, please? Anyone in the chat?
Okay, that's pretty strong. My intuition here is, Chloe, do you have a comment on this? Do you have a feeling on where things are currently trending? And I understand you're in a difficult position, so like if your answer is no comment, I will respect that, and everyone else should as well.
I will.
On this one, we actually had concerns about it in the CLP exec earlier in the year. The length of time from not allowing any kind of democratic meetings in terms of branch meetings and so on, between when the lockdown began in March and when they started letting us have like Zoom meetings to hold actual discussions in the party, was extreme. The decision to not have any kind of proper policy making going on at the so-called virtual conference that was run in September was pretty appalling, to be honest. I mean, you've got a new leadership in, so they automatically try and pretend like you're starting from semi-scratch after a general election, because the party programme gets built up towards a general election. So from that point of view, from like local members' point of view, we've had an absolute nightmare. We'd already selected people that we wanted to go forward to the conference. We had ideas about motions that we would put forward, and all of that gets junked to have a look at what's happening next year. From the perspective of other things, there's supposed to be a women's conference, which is supposed to be separate from the general conference, and this year was kind of folded into the virtual conference. So there's all sorts of things there before we even get to the question of the NEC vote. And I'm someone that's in favour of a different electoral system, like first past the post in internal party elections is, I think, a terrible way to run things. But what I really object to is running part of the NEC under single transferable vote, and then the rest of it using first past the post voting. I think that actually creates a very anti-democratic setup of having different systems of voting for the different sections of the National Executive Committee. And then you look at today, there's so much that I could point to where we're failing utterly the promises of the democracy review.
I have to admit, as someone coming from another political party, to hear that the National Executive Committee of Labour uses two separate voting systems to elect members to it actually breaks my mind a little bit. Apologies for the editorialism.
Before we move on, I'd just like to... The problem isn't that Labour's not fully democratic, because it's not. The problem is it's the wrong kind of not fully democratic. Because it allows people like Luke Akehurst to gain an NEC seat.
That's right.
That's not something that the left should have any association with.
Well, that's something really worrying, and that makes me think that maybe the composition of the party's membership has changed pretty substantially since a few months ago. I mean, I figure it's probably gone down. I doubt by much, because there'll be all these dads joining simultaneously. But if the fact that Akehurst got more votes than any other candidate other than including Laura Pidcock, who came second, who obviously she was the most popular left candidate because of name recognition. She's a widely known figure on the Labour left and was an MP. Akehurst, meanwhile, I guess, has been active in Labour circles, but for ages, and so he has that. He's always been the highest right-wing candidate on in NEC elections, even when he lost, because of the name recognition. But the fact that he actually came first, I mean...
Yeah, he was over the quota. I've just got the numbers now. Damn. So was Laura Pidcock. But yeah, he came first by 8,000 votes or thereabouts.
That might be a vote management thing, though. Something to bear in mind is that the left actually made a point of sending different regional lists around. So who you gave your first preference to. Whereas as far as I can tell, Labour to win sent round a list with an alphabetical order.
Sorry, that's really funny. I'm sorry, but that's really funny if Akehurst has won just because his surname begins with A.
I'm not saying he doesn't have right-wing support, but there may be a factor of him coming first in that there was just better management of the STV system from the left.
What were the other right-wing candidates who got on? What were their surnames? Just so I can see if this hypothesis works now.
So we've got Akehurst, then Pidcock, then Baxter. So Baxter's one of the Labour to win people.
I'm just saying that begins with B. I'm just saying, everyone.
And then Gurinder Jozan. And then so that's their three. So that's in terms of alphabetical order. That is their alphabetical order.
I'm just saying.
That is actually amazing. I'm very okay.
I mean, that's my theory.
I am so glad that we have broken this definitely true thing on the stream. I am so glad.
But I mean,
Just
how
remember
many...
that the Labour right are capable of like tripping over their dicks in the most spectacular ways to fuck up, but they can also trip over their dick up the way. Like,
Yeah, imagine being able to trip upwards. It's magnificent, really, in its own way.
And look, I think somebody like Luke Akehurst his entire life is about like Labour Party chronology. You know, he's not a fucking idiot, despite some idiotic views that he holds. Like when it comes to how to like take advantage of a system, you know, I reckon he had a good understanding of the STV model that the leadership had brought in, and Labour to win knew how to exploit that.
Okay, well, I think I can key us on to an interesting one. For the sake of argument, and David, just take this for the sake of argument, okay? We can rehash it later. Let's presume, for the sake of argument, that there is a democratic system of some kind, sort of vaguely in Labour right now, okay? Just for the sake of argument. Is it possible, as things stand, for the left to play this system and come back into power?
Yeah, potentially.
no.
I mean,
Yeah, it's
Okay. Let's divide it out here. Chloe, why don't you go first? You spoke first.
so, I mean, the fact that the left were able to actually manage to get 5 people on when the general expectation was that they were looking at 3 or 4 shows that they can vote manage well and they can mobilise well. So that's a positive thing. If they can kind of push things like that in terms of policy going towards conference and the like, that's more things where they've got power. The big question really is the relationship with the parliamentary leadership, with the SCG, which at the moment it's not really existent, and that would need addressing. You know, there's not a proper link up between the decisions that, say, Momentum makes and the decisions that the SCG make, because the SCG is so used to having, under Corbyn, being able to more or less just tell Momentum what they were doing. And obviously you had people like Landsman in the room kind of pushing for various things. That kind of relationship has got to change, but it doesn't mean that there's not potential in the future for a left leadership to come back in. And whether that's in the terms of like an actual leader at the top, or the left being able to take control of the systems within the party. You know, I say we're frustrated with the situation about how the party approaches democracy for members, but actually if the left can mobilise, it can do a lot to do things like rule changes, which I know like a lot of people see that as a bit of a geeky annoyance, but can make a big difference in how the party is run. And you can do things like policy motions. I mean, Labour for a Green New Deal had an excellent result in mobilising people for submitting policies to the policy forum. Those have been more easily ignored at the moment because we haven't had a policy-making conference. But in the context of a full conference, where people are actually getting to vote on specifics and being able to push things like, we want 2030 as the deadline still, there's potential there for the left to have a lot of movement if they can mobilise the way that they have in this election.
Okay. And for the Duma take, David, you fired right in there with a very hard no. Would you like to justify that at all? Would you like to substantiate it?
Yes, absolutely. How often is the NEC re-elected?
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years. By the time we get to the next election, which is what really matters, there's going to be another NEC election. If the right look at this and go, oh shit, they're going to play the game better and they're going to make sure that doesn't happen again. The other side of this is that there are no other wings of the party that really make any difference to anything by and large that has any considerable power that the left can effectively take control of. I just don't see it. Also, we're not really looking at the probability and possibility that if they do win the NEC in 2 years' time, they're just going to make it impossible for a leftist to get on the slate. And we need to consider the quality of the leftists that are available to us, because as of now, looking at the SCG, I can't really see anyone in there, bar maybe Zara Sultana, that I would actually go, yeah, you're worth fully supporting. It's a really, really bad list of MPs. They are not doing well. They can't even all sign a letter in support of Corbyn.
Yeah.
Solidarity is a foreign concept to a quarter of them. What's the point in them? it's not good enough. It's not what the left either deserves nor needs. And
Okay.
of all the things I'm most concerned about, it's a real change that's going to fuck the left out of it. They need to know that this can happen, because the only reason Corbyn got in the first place was because they fucked up, and it's entirely preventable. So I don't see it happening. I feel like we could sit here and waste at least 2, possibly 4 years of time fighting in amongst to try and get control of the Labour Party, only for at the last minute everything to just be with a switch basically stopped.
Okay, I'm going to do my moderator bit and ask for a point of information, because I genuinely don't know. How many votes of the Parliamentary Labour Party does it take to get a candidate up for leadership election? Does anyone know?
15, isn't it, at the moment?
I think
20,
it's about that, yeah.
15%.
There's enough.
Yeah, it's 25 MPs.
Yeah,
25
there's
MPs.
enough.
Or 20.
There's enough SCG MPs at the moment for a leadership challenge for them to nominate someone.
Yeah,
There's
but
no guarantee
like, I
that's going
think...
to happen.
Yeah, but the issue is that there's, I guess there were enough Socialist Campaign Group MPs to get Rebecca Long-Bailey across the line. And I guess that there were enough... How many nominations, do you know this, Chloe? Like, how many nominations do you have to get on the deputy leader ballot? Is it the same?
It's the same for both.
Because
it's a percentage of the actual membership of the PLP that gets you on.
Yeah. So I guess there were enough to nominate even a more divisive figure than RLB, like Richard Bergen obviously managed to get on the deputy leadership ballot. So I mean, yeah, because I was going to say, like, I guess the question is, you don't really know who in the current incarnation of the Socialist Campaign Group is going to actually stay left. And I mean, that's always been an issue. There's been a long history of MPs who were in the SCG and then they left to take a job with Kinnock or Blair. Like Keith Vaz was one. He was on the far left at one point. There was Chris Mullin, who wrote A Very British Coup and then joined the Blair government and later supported Owen Smith. And you can definitely see a few of those types in the current PLP, people who, you can kind of look at, in the parlance of our time as a pattern of behavior. Certain people in the PLP, in the SCG rather, they, took jobs with Starmer, abstained on those bills that were in flagrant violation of human rights, haven't expressed any solidarity with Jeremy Corbyn. Between those things, and then, and I think something else about a lot of these people is that a lot of them backed Angela Rayner for deputy leader, and there seems to be a kind of constituency on the left that sees her as the left great hope, when I'm afraid she, as good a like media performer as she is and stuff, when she's dispensing a wonderful spin like what Corbyn said was correct but unacceptable or whatever, she's been like totally on message with the right-wing turn of the party. So I think that's really the left settling for a terrible amount, if and I think that there's a section of the SCG who just seem to have cashed it in, just thought, well, if we just stick by Starmer, toe the line, then maybe, we can serve under Angie in a few years. And like that, I think that's the worst possible tack for the left to take. So yeah, there's a failure of leadership at the moment, for sure.
Sinan, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, so it's a no. To the original question, it's a no, but with a big asterisk. And the asterisk is, the left needs to change its behavior, right? You can't constantly be a passive force over and over again and letting yourself get rolled by people like fucking Keir Starmer. Are you serious? You're letting yourself get rolled by Keir Starmer, a man who barely exists, and you're going to let yourself get rolled by him while you leave hang Jeremy Corbyn out to dry? I mean, really? Like, is it, this is the thing. It's a character issue. My problem with the SCG isn't that these are bad people with bad politics. Some of them have profoundly bad politics in some cases. Some of them have good politics, but they all have one thing. Well, most of them have one thing in common, which is that they don't have the character to actually stand up for themselves. And why should? And here's the thing: if you wanted a transformative Labour government, right? Do you really believe these people could face down the might of the British state when they're in government? If they're just letting Keir Starmer roll them like this? Really? Like, there needs to be a character change. It's a lack of leadership, yeah, but, like, you need to have a character change, a fundamental character change, and a change in your engagement, principle of engagement, which is you have to go in hard, go in often, make as much trouble as you can with the profile that you have. And, and if necessary, you have to be prepared to take it all the way and damage the Labour Party itself, honestly, because that's what the other lot did, and they got everything they wanted,
Yep.
And yes, the rules are different for the left, but you still have similar tools that you can use, and you actually have popular policies that people like. You can make your case if you really were brave enough to believe in them. Anyway, that's my position on that.
See, I think this is something where, from my left perspective, ideally we shouldn't be looking for leadership from on high. And that's why I think, from my point of view, what I want to see is more from the left membership. I'd like to see an improvement in the relationship with the SCG, but I don't want that to be an SCG dictating down to what the membership should be doing. I want that to be the SCG responding to the demands of the membership instead. But actually, it is the left-wing members who are in the party who are driving the way forward in terms of policy.
The Discord did the thing. There it is. Apologies, everyone, but Discord did the thing. I cheated in this and decided to cut Chloe off because she was making a great point. No, I'm sorry. That's on me a tiny bit. Let me get the thing.
I was going to say I agree with Chloe, but that's basically, and in fact, yeah, that is basically the problem at the moment, that the SCG don't seem to be reflecting the feeling that there is among the membership. I mean, there are people who are bravely speaking out at the moment against, what is a project to marginalize the left, absolutely. Who are in turn themselves getting, disciplined, suspended from the party, and so on. And you just can't see a recognition of the stakes in the rhetoric from on high, effectively, as I think Chloe said. There's all these limp appeals to unity. And it's just astonishing coming from, someone like Richard Bergen, who I like. But, Starmer sacked him on day one. Starmer has never been interested in unity with Richard Bergen. So why does he think that, that this is going to... he's even going to be listened to? That it's very... I mean, I guess the thing that I've been coming back to is that these rallies that the Socialist Campaign Group have been putting on, obviously the Zoom format is inherently kind of limited. Just look at this, for example. No, I'm just kidding. But, it's never going to get, people stirred up so much just sitting at home watching someone talk in their study into their laptop or whatever. But at the same time, you should come away, from watching these things with the blood flowing a bit, it should get you a bit stirred up. A rally should rally one, it really, and I've just come away from these SCG rallies just feeling, depressed as fuck. I mean, if the rallies the Keep Corbyn rallies in 2016, if they'd have had the same tone as these recent ones, Owen Smith would have won by a landslide. It's pretty astonishing. Compare how John McDonnell was talking at those rallies in 2016 to these ones. You start to feel almost a bit, provided you're not frustrated with them to the point of actively disliking them, which I wouldn't say I am. You start to feel sorry for the people in the Socialist Campaign Group because they just seem crushed by the experience of the last few years, in all honesty.
I mean, you can't blame them given how by all accounts, horrible it has been for them in the Parliamentary Labour Party, but still...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But, I mean, it's not going to get better for them if they say, oh, unity, please don't be mean to us, Keith.
That's right.
He's going to find some reason to fucking kick them out or whatever. He's just waiting for the day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're gonna. I do have questions, and I'd like to get your thoughts on what the Socialist Campaign Group can potentially do. But we'll come to that, I think, a little bit later. I want to kind of divert topics slightly. So I have heard a story told to me that one of the branches, I think that's the term, within the area that actually elected Keir Starmer has passed a motion. Does anyone know about this? Can anyone fill us in on a little more detail?
No, I just saw the same thing.
Yeah, I saw a tweet about it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it is basically what you said. A branch in Keir Starmer's constituency of Holborn and St Pancras has passed a motion of support for Jeremy Corbyn by, I think this may be false news. I think it was a 2-1 majority, but that might just be my mind filling in the gaps. I don't know, in the games, so to speak.
My understanding is that the chair has ruled it not competent business for the CLP meeting.
Well, there you go. This is there is a genuine democratic feeling amongst the membership. Members are taking Chloe's advice, because obviously they're listening to the best to get the best advice. Getting very Donald Trump here.
She's the best.
Fantastic, just brilliant, But
please no.
yeah.
Please no. Let's put the American politics in the rearview mirror. This is a strictly British state night.
They want to kill the cows. Sorry,
I'm cutting your mic. That's it. We're gonna go to another.
Oh no! That was British politics. I promise that was just Gapes. I promise.
No, I didn't hear a milk. I'm pretty sure that wasn't Gapes.
Apparently Bristol West was 2-1. That won't be where.
Yeah, that would be it. That would be it. But as you can see, my point is that people are taking the initiative and not waiting for just some edict from on high, from the SCG to tell them what to do. And the leadership are just, and their goons in these CLPs are just saying, nah, sorry, that's not allowed. I
would be cautious calling anybody that's not ruling it competent business as a goon, because basically we've been issued as chairs a reminder of what is and isn't competent business. It is a question of, are you putting your own membership at risk in order to make a decision to say that you'll hear this motion out?
Well, that's interesting, because I was going to actually go on to say, my understanding is that there has been an issuance from some person who's high up in Labour, you can fill me in on the specifics, who's basically said you're not allowed to discuss Jeremy Corbyn's suspension at CLP meetings. Is this correct?
But I mean, isn't that complete? Sorry, but isn't that wrong on a fundamental level?
Hold on. We'll get to that. Let's be clear. Sorry, Chloe, you were answering that.
Well, for the sake of consistency, I think it's worth pointing out that this is a ruling that was brought in under Jenny Formby, that there should not be discussions of individual disciplinary cases at meetings. And some of this is because it used to be the case under the system of Labour's disciplinary stuff, that local CLPs could actually sanction a member themselves for some things. Other things went to region, other things went up nationally. And there was no consistency about how these were handled. And obviously this created an absolute nightmare in terms of how the complaints were done. Now, I don't quite agree with the way they try and uber confidential everything that's involved in any complaints, but it has been a consistent position since about 2018 that no individual complaint should be discussed as a part of local party business, so that it doesn't prejudice the party's discussion of that complaint. That was particularly reiterated for a certain ghoulish MP, when various branches wanted to pass motions in support of him. Initial CW.
I mean, if you want to talk about prejudicing investigations, I feel like the leader going on TV and talking about it constantly.
Oh yeah.
And it's the thing is, he was asked by the press, so he's obviously going to respond. He's a lawyer. He should know he should be familiar with the phrase "no comment." Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is that this is just such an exceptional case. It's not even. I mean, even Chris Williamson, I suppose, had a kind of political significance in that he was an MP. He was, to some extent, a national figure. But I mean, I really think this isn't some kind of just like standard disciplinary. I understand, obviously, it is by the definition of the rules, but this is such a fundamental political and democratic issue. This is the former leader of the party, and people know, well, ostensibly, what he was suspended for, but it was on the basis of a public statement that he made. As far as we know, it's not like there is a bunch of kind of stuff that isn't in the public domain that that kind of backs up, that also adds to the picture of why he was suspended. I think it's something that is well within the view of people to have opinions on, and the pretense that members can't discuss that, I think, is quite undemocratic. When, as Sinan says, the leadership are out there putting forward their 2 cents, and if anything, that is significantly prejudicing the case. And I think that the reality of this is in the abstract a disciplinary case, but in reality, what it is it's a political attack on every one of those members who is now feeling compelled to speak up against it and pass a motion in their CLP.
It's more dangerous than just that, though, because this is an obvious and clear return to proper Blairite management of the party. It's a platform for me, but not for thee. Like, this is what happens. This is the start of it, and you're going to get to the point where people are being parachuted back into seats to run for them in the next election. It's going to get to that same level because they know what they can do. They know what they can get away with. A lot of these rules are still the same. They just weren't utilised in bad faith by the left when the left had power.
I mean, there's an argument to be made there that we should have done it. We should have used every single tool at our disposal to weed the party out of every single centrist, but we didn't.
And also, I would like to say, I don't think everybody who's trying to keep their CLP in order and not wanting to prejudice disciplinary cases is a quote unquote goon. Of course, I would like very much like to clarify that. But I do think that, for example, the people in Bristol West, what's happening there's a genuine democratic feeling amongst the membership, and certain people who are supportive of the leadership are, and presumably in agreement with the party's disciplinary processes on this, shutting them down. So that's what I was thinking of in terms of politically motivated shutting down of discussion among members, which I'm sure is not the case in every instance across the country.
Well, clearly there's a bit of heat behind this. There's a question in the chat, and I want to just I'll seek a little bit of clarity. I don't actually know the answer to this. What is the forward inquiry?
So
Matt Ford's new comedy show.
I'm actually going to be reviewing it on stream, unfortunately.
Oh God.
There was, after the leaks, the leaked report, which was going to be submitted to the EHRC, but then decided not to be, which detailed the kind of effect that factionalism within the party had on Labour's complaints process, and included various evidence that suggested that people involved may have been discriminatory towards various Labour MPs, especially black MPs, various members of the left, and that there was overall some very bad factional feeling, creating very, very bad practices in terms of approach to one another within the party. As a result of this, Starmer commissioned an inquiry, the Ford inquiry, which is supposed to be an independent inquiry, into the events of the leaks, to establish them, to establish if there is discrimination going on and how to address it. I can't remember the exact terms that they're now investigating under. I do recall there was a slight change in how they were looking at it, in terms of not just looking at racism that may have been revealed by the leaks and factionalism problems in terms of the structures of the party. But they were looking at other things as well. But the idea is this was supposed to have been released, I think, at the beginning of the summer, and it's been massively delayed. There was an expectation that it might actually be released before the EHRC was released. Obviously, that's not been the case. We'll see what it actually comes up with.
So supposedly it's meant to be out before the end of the year, according to questioner Marl Karksia, cool name. What does the panel think the impact of it will be, if any?
Can I go? Can I say it?
Yeah, go on, Sinan.
Sweet fuck all is what the impact of it is going to be. I'm telling you now, it's going to be sweet fuck all. Even if it comes out with these malign factional actors contributed to all of these things, nothing will happen. A lot of the people named in it have moved the fuck on. Some of them have got payouts from the party, but from legal cases. They've moved the fuck on. They're working in private consultancies or whatever. They don't give a shit. They're already out. They're going to go, these people have already left. What can we do? That's going to be it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the response in the media at large will be basically to highlight if you go through it with Tipex, highlight the not a Tipex, just a highlighter, I suppose. Highlight the sentences. But
I've got to interject and say that highlighting with Tipex is a very like Big Brother-esque kind of way to go about it, to be honest.
Okay, you get some Tipex, but use that for the bits that reflect positively on the left, and use the highlighter for all the bits that make the left look bad. I think that's the way that it's going to go. But maybe it will be a very fair and even-handed report. I don't know. I personally doubt that. But at the same time, like, whether it is or it isn't, I think we can probably guess what the story is going to be. And I think the framing of it as being about factionalism is pretty telling, because it's just going to be this like both sides thing where the left and right are as bad as each other. Never like, oh, the left won 2 leadership elections in the space of a year and the right just did not accept it and fucked it up in every way they can and tried their best to make everyone on the left's life hell. It's going to be like, but the left, by defending their mandate and saying, please don't make my life hell, I'll give you a job, please just stop briefing the press about me. But by doing that, they'd also been guilty of toxic factionalism. So not too optimistic, but obviously, I'm not a soothsayer. I haven't read what's it called, the Ford Inquiry, Politically Homeless, or whatever.
Yes, I've pulled up the actual terms of reference. So it's the truth or otherwise of the main allegations in the leaked report, the background and circumstances in which that report was commissioned, written and circulated, and then the structure, culture and practices of the Labour Party organisation, including the relationship between senior party staff and the elected leadership of the Labour Party, as the panel think appropriate, having regard to their investigation as a whole. So it really depends what the report comes out with. And if it comes out before the party has to report to the HRC about its plans for the future, and it's positive about what kind of changes need to be made to the culture of the party, I think it could have an impact. The difficulty is in knowing how it's going to play.
Yeah,
I think that it will have an impact, but it's not going to have the impact that's really expected, in the same way that the suspension of Jeremy Corbyn hasn't had the impact that they were quite expecting, because obviously immediately they expected to be lauded for such a brave decision, and then roundly were not. So I think that all this is really going to do is kind of move me closer to my dream, and we'll finally be on the road to getting rid of the party in full.
Yes.
that's interesting. Could you clarify how you think it's going to do that? Because I appreciate the PASOK image you've pulled up there. It's very cool branding. T-shirts available. But Like, what do you see the through line being there?
I mean, it's going to be another report that completely maligns the left, just like Jack said. It will be like, if there's anything to be found by the time it comes out, it's going to be redone and redone and redone to the point where anything that actually says good about the left is going to be token at best. It's going to be, here is the minimum we could get away with, including. I don't see it really reflecting positively on anything, but what I do see is it giving a free pass to a lot of fuckers who have done a lot of really, really bad things. And that in itself is only going to do exactly what Corbyn's suspension's done and push more people out of Labour. And I can only personally see that as a good thing, because people are starting to, people have, since Starmer took over, realised that this is fucked. And more people are, as the Labour right continually make things worse for anyone in the left to remain in the party.
Well, that's a pretty good segue, David, because we have a question in the chat again. Someone's asked, and I think it's a good one, and I was looking to move on to this eventually. So Keir Starmer, people have different opinions about him. The media seems to have a different opinion from many people I hear in Labour. But I'm curious, we're going to go around the panel. What do you each think of Keir Starmer's leadership? And do you think there's any things he's done that are good? And do you think there's any things he's done which are bad? We'll start with Jack this time. Go on, Jack.
It's a travesty. What can I say? It's a more reactionary leadership at its historic juncture than Ed Miliband's was, which was at least about moving Labour a little bit to a place that was acknowledging actual social realities that was to the left of New Labour. This is purely picking up the Harman Leslie continuity project of 2015 before Corbyn became leader. Just a return to soft rhetoric on business, constant photo shoots with the army, talking about really like base superficial stuff, like Labour is now it can give back to the troops again. I mean, Labour actually had very good policies for veterans under Corbyn. Just the issue was that, they also wanted to shoot him for some reason and use pictures of him for target practice. But, just kind of a superficial stuff like that. I mean, I'm fairly certain that at some point in Starmer's leadership and under the Foreign Secretary stewardship, the Foreign Affairs stewardship of Lisa Nandy, I think that they're going to back a military intervention at some point. And yeah, the defining feature, I think, seems to be sort of a recapitulation of the entire Labour Party to the edicts of the state. I think it's basically about returning the party to a place where it is in the parlance of I can't remember who coined this, maybe Tom Blackburn, but it's Capital's B team again. They're unthreatening to big business. They're unthreatening to the military industrial complex and to the political establishment as well. There's always that thing of like when there came talk of a national unity government under Corbyn, which was always a pipe dream. But obviously the Lib Dems, they really bought into the personal hate campaign against Jeremy Corbyn and said, no, we would rather Boris Johnson be Prime Minister than to back a Corbyn government. And they knew that Corbyn wasn't going to say, okay, I'll step down and let Ken Clarke, let Margaret Beckett lead Labour while, or Ken Clarke take over the national government or while I'm deputy or something. He wasn't going to do that because, he had a democratic mandate to lead that party. But yeah, essentially, now they've got to a place where if for some reason, although the Tories obviously have a very firm mandate at the moment with their landslide last year, that people are saying we need a national unity government to combat COVID or whatever, a wartime style government. I think that there's certain Tory MPs, not as many anymore because obviously it's stuffed with Johnson loyalists, but the Lib Dems at least would say, yeah, okay, I'd back Keir Starmer as interim PM. So essentially that's long roundabout way of saying that's what I'm getting at. Keir Starmer he's the statesman in the Labour Party. He's the candidate who is about making Labour an unthreatening non-radical party, and a big part of that is where he shows timidity to establishment forces, just a real ruthlessness towards the left. I think that's a prerequisite of his project, is the total defeat of those who came before him.
Okay, well, that's pretty comprehensive as far as answers go. Damning with faint praise and saying he'd be approved by the Lib Dems. I like it. That's just my anti-Lib Dem stance. You can't. I'm sorry, I may be a centrist of this discussion, but I'm not pro Lib Dem.
I said certain Tory MPs would go for him as well. You know, he's got wide appeal with shithead political class wankers.
All right, sure. Chloe, what about you? Do you think, any good things, any bad things about Keir Starmer's leadership from your perspective?
I mean, I disagree with his style, but I think you can also see how, if you were actually keeping left policies, like if you were doing what people thought he would do under the leadership election, of giving a friendly face that the media could kind of accept, at least for a time, but pushing for left politics, then that would have been, that would have been fine. I don't like that style of doing politics. I'd rather people just came out and said, this is what I believe, and this is why you should believe it too, and I'm going to try and persuade you to agree with me, instead of sort of triangulating the position. But I mean, even Corbyn failed on that point on various things. I mean, especially the policy on police and border guards. So it's not an unknown thing for Labour leaders to kind of do this. Well, we'll just pitch it right to try and get the left-wing policies in. Unfortunately, it's the lack of left-wing policies that's really concerning. I don't think he's doing enough to push on issues in terms of responses to COVID. There's been a clear drop of stuff where now would be the perfect time to make the case, for example, for free broadband for everybody as an essential service. But there's also things like, it's particularly concerning that somebody with Starmer's background should have felt able to abstain on the Covert Human Intelligence Sources Bill. I mean, the Overseas Operations Bill, obviously there's a bit of a kind of we're friendly to the troops messaging, which I think is appalling to kind of do the abstention on. But there's a history of Labour doing that. Any Labour leader going for a bill and abstaining when it's all about, attacks on left-wing groups, attacks on trade unions, when right now we're having the Spy Cops inquiry and you're getting talk about how police officers, who'd been in a relationship with someone, returned out of the blue in order to be able to have sex with them again. And you have situations of women being left traumatized because after these relationships, it seemed like the person that was their partner had left in extreme mental distress, and they then never hear from them again. And you're going, oh yeah, we want to put that on a legal footing. That I find...
Oh, is it done it again? Oh, no.
I can't even express how much that appalls me as an approach.
Damn
Yeah.
right. Damn
Pretty-
straight up. I agree.
Pretty. I've got to say, even as a centrist melt moderator here, I find that hard to disagree with. So yeah, I don't know. We'll mix it up a bit. David, you've been going last a lot. What's your take on it?
Right, so I'm still working on the good things list for things that Keir Starmer's done. I may need more time. I'll get back to you on that one when he's not the leader anymore, because then he'll have done a good thing. At the moment, though, the bad list, we've got the Corbyn suspension, shagging poppies, shagging spy cops, shagging regular cops, shagging war criminals, hitting cyclists, dropping literally all of his pledges, giving Wes Streeton a job, giving Jess Phillips a job, giving Lisa Nandy a job, giving Rachel Reeves a job, continuing to be leader, continuing to propagate the Labour Party, forensics, and not even managing to get the media on side effectively. Oh, and wanting kids back at school. And as I said in the chat there as well, which I forgot he did, the fucking Black Lives Matter thing that he fucking did with the moment pish, like,
And sacking
list of
RLB.
crime, and sacking RLB. The list of crimes is longer than my brain can, like, keep in the short-term memory.
The Excel file has broken.
It is, yeah.
Now they're
And-
backtracking on the net zero carbon emissions by 2030 policy as well.
Please don't do
that
this
was
to me.
to the last day.
Okay. I'm going to call this order here. So, would it be fair to say, in surmise, then, or in summary, I should say, David, that your opinion of Keir Starmer's leadership is not positive?
I don't think a binary scale of positive, not positive, is enough to kind of illustrate exactly how negative I am towards it.
Oh God, I've just got this Shodan quote from System Shock 2 coming in.
Oh, yeah.
Hate, let me tell you about hate. Sure, okay. All right, Sinan, what about you? You got any good points about Starmer? Can we find some?
Good points about Starmer. I like his hair sometimes. I don't. He's at least he's not actually bald, like physically bald. He's politically bald, but that's an entirely separate matter. I mean, the good point about Starmer is that he is, in effect, the herald of Labour's demise. He is. If I could construct a figure who could destroy a party, it would be him, and he is doing it. And and it may not happen in 2024. It might be in 2029, it might be in 2034. The party is going to die because of his leadership. It will die. He's Kinnock on steroids, but even Kinnock increased the percentage of the vote. He's not going to do that, everyone. I got bad news for you. He is going to lose voters for Labour. And he is going to get his clock cleaned by Rishi Sunak, or whichever ghoul the Tories summon up from the pits of hell. He will get his clock cleaned by them. Like, he's also not a leader because he abstains on everything. He doesn't take a position. The only thing he takes a position on is which direction his fist goes, and it always goes left. Like, come on.
Well, in fairness, to govern is to choose, I hear.
Yeah.
So, the question that was in chat, which this was a warm-up to, is Mercutio UK has said, or has asked rather, have Keir Starmer's decisions strategically weakened the party, and is that something the left can capitalise on? So we'll take that in two parts. Let's not look at the specifics of the things he's done wrong, because I think they've been pretty well categorised just there. Thank you, David, and others. But have his political decisions weakened the party? And I'm throwing that as an open question to you all.
I think yes, they have. And again, I think that's a good thing. But
we get it, David. I think at this point,
yeah.
it's
well established every appearance that he's on here.
Yeah, no, he has done, but like the way in which he's done it has been more slapstick than anyone could really have guessed. It really is the run up to Corbyn becoming the leader in the first place, with the amount of just incredible fucking errors he's made, like the way that he handled the Long Bailey suspension, the way that he's handled the Corbyn suspension, the shit about the schools, the Black Lives Matter, like it's all been fuck ups, every single bit of it. And the leader of the party and their credibility does reflect on the party as a whole. Like, it's not something that anyone can get away with. That is the case. And like, how anyone can look at him, especially this far in, and say he's doing a stand-up job without, having to be even slightly persuaded on the ideological question of Keir Starmer. It's only going to be people that are like dead set on that continuation of liberalism that are totally into it. Anyone else has to look at that and go, "This is fucked up." They're not even in respect to Corbyn. They just need to look at it and go, "This is not going well." Like, it's plain to see.
Well, before we get any further comment, I'd just like to highlight something from the chat, which I don't necessarily agree with because I'm a centrist melt tonight, but which I do find funny. Red Tick Seed says, "It's cyclical. Labour began with a Keir and it will end with a Keir. It's poetry. It rhymes."
Keir Starmer is a psychopomp. We're over this.
Yeah, this has been extensively explained on a previous stream. We will not go into it tonight, I don't think.
This question, rest of the panel, do you agree with David? I mean, not about the destruction of the Labour Party thing.
I do agree with that, to be fair. But...
Right, yes. All right, fine, thank you all. But do you feel like Keir Starmer's political decisions have undermined the party?
Well, I think actually this is where I'm going to come in with the moderate take. Oh my god, why do I do these streams?
It's good to have you here. I'm so glad it's not just me and these three dooming about the entire thing. It's nice to have balance as a centrist melt. That's what I'm in favour of, balance and decorum.
So a lot of people don't follow politics that closely. And their thing with Labour is if Labour is fighting, then they see Labour as weak. If by 2024 Starmer's managed to establish that he's got control over the party, I don't think fights with the left will actually make people really move away from him. He won't gain new voters in the same way, but it certainly means that he's got potential to make a case. And I think for all that the left likes to make the 20 points ahead jokes, you know, Starmer has had a party that recently has been basically neck and neck with the Tories. Now, the Tories have got that apparently unassailable 40% at the moment. We'll see how long that lasts. But it is something I think that the left shouldn't be too triumphalist in thinking that this kind of politics can't work. Part of the problem we have to grapple with is that maybe it can, and therefore the politics that are necessary don't get enacted. And so it's not enough to sort of say, I think he's weakening a party by not backing my politics. We have to actually find a way to make a case for why it's more important to back our politics that are necessary for the good of people and for the good of, you know, like addressing things like climate change, like poverty. You know, all of those kind of things have to be addressed. We have to find a way of saying our policies matter instead of saying, and doing the centrist thing of saying, but we're better than the other guy. And I do think it's something to be wary of people going, oh yeah, we think he's doing terribly, so he won't succeed. Like, my fear is that we look at that and go, he won't succeed, and not realise that he actually might succeed in a way that is entirely negative.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's really interesting, and that actually kind of, I think that gives a pretty good answer, because the second part of the question that was asked was going to be, is there a way the left can capitalise on this? And what you've I think you've quite comprehensively outlined is that it's not necessarily, because it's not necessarily what is a failure from the left's perspective is perhaps not a failure from, you know, broader societies. So yeah, that's interesting. I suspect David's sitting over there fuming, or vaping, I should say, thinking, well, I mean, you know, this is a failure and perhaps it can be capitalized on. But just for the sake of an outside argument, David, you're pretty convinced, it seems, that Keir Starmer is going to basically doom the Labour Party. Do you think that's something that in the near term the Labour can, the left, sorry, more broadly, can take advantage of? Do you think there's that possibility?
The inside Labour left or the outside Labour left?
Sure.
Yeah. The inside Labour left, I mean, maybe if it was soon, but again, who is going to be the person that you put up? How are they going to actually put the PLP in check? How are they going to keep all the levers of the party machinery that isn't aligned with the left wing, because we've seen that it actively isn't aligned with the left wing through that leaked report? How are you going to keep all that in check? What is going to be the point of doing so? For the outside Labour left, yeah, it would probably be good, because as we all know, that once Keir Starmer's finally done, the Labour right will want to install someone that they can, you know, really get behind policy-wise, and that's why we're going to end up on the most cursed timeline that will, thankfully, lead to the full destruction of the Labour Party.
No, not again.
Uh-oh. Sin, everything okay?
Yeah, it's the image. He's haunting me with this image.
Oh dear. See, I'm too busy skimming the chat because people have been asking
This
questions.
is the future Labour wants.
I wish
Well,
that
that's what I'm saying. Those two people would be government ministers if Keir Starmer became prime minister.
Yeah, there it is.
Like,
Yeah.
Jess Phillips would be like in charge of women's safety, and Wes Streeting would be in charge of, well, children's safety at schools, basically. So it's just like literally like just giving these people who we've seen are just like transparently awful individuals, like the most like insane power. I mean, yeah, that's like obviously. I mean, I'm sure like Chloe wouldn't put it in those terms necessarily, but that's me basically agreeing with her point. I think, yeah, Starmer could well be successful, and the left has to think about what does that mean for us. If like Jess Phillips and Wes Streeting get to go around saying, "Yeah, we're winners," and hold that against us, then yeah, I don't think that's necessarily the most an environment in which the left will flourish. Maybe give it 10 years of something, like after Starmer fucking completely fails as prime minister and can't hold a narrow minority government together or something, because I don't think a big majority is really in sight, but he could maybe become prime minister. Maybe at that point people will realize like Starmer style centrism is shit, but you know, it took people a while to really go off Blair, because you know, people are just so relieved to finally have a winner. You know, Labour's had like 3 prime ministers who are winners, and yeah, most people aren't necessarily, you know, perceiving Starmer as waging a war on the left in a way that I'm getting aggravated by every day. And yeah, you know, just as Joe Biden is now getting uncritical praise, even from people who about a year ago were saying, "Oh, he's a racist. He used to support segregation," you know, things that are true.
Again, I'm going to have to hit the buzzer interjection. You're bringing in American politics into this. You have been warned. This is your second and final warning, or you will be ejected from the panel.
Oh, sorry. Did I say Joe Biden? I meant, wait, who's this comparatively senile figure in British politics?
There's quite a lot.
Mike Gapes.
I'll just say Mike Gapes
Gapes.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike Gapes.
Why not?
Yeah. No, but I mean, it's very similar. Like, if a little sniff of electoral success and people will start falling into line behind Starmer, unfortunately. And I will say this is kind of a backhanded compliment to the Labour left, maybe, but whereas the Labour right, I think many of them would happily take a Tory government over a government led by Labour from the left. I think most people on the Labour left would prefer a Labour right government to a Tory one, and I think that goes for basically all the Socialist Campaign Group, and that's why, you know,
I'm gonna interrupt here. I'm gonna interrupt here because again, you're given a pretty good segue, because someone Jamptapot asked a question. The question asked is, why does the establishment Labour left prioritise unity over anything else? Are they just too invested in Labourism? So what you're kind of touching on that question, you know, is this why you think they prioritise unity over other choices?
I think in part, yeah. I mean, I think like people in the Socialist Campaign Group are moulded by campaigning. Most of them, I think, are people who would have been campaigning against austerity from 2010 to 15 when it was not party policy. So they're very attuned to kind of the damage that the Tories have wreaked on society. And I think they're finding it hard to step back from the last 5 years if we desperately need a Labour government to finally combat the austerity programme. So all of them, they feel a certain duty to their constituents, which is right, which is one of the reasons that these cuck MPs who left the party in 2019, that was one of the reasons it was so disgraceful that they didn't have a by-election, because they'd been elected as Labour MPs. And I think the Socialist Campaign Group, they feel our members and our constituents who voted for us want a Labour government, and that's always at the forefront of their mind. So there's a big difference between, for example, like, I take an MP who obviously really hates Starmer, Ian Lavery, and then take another Ian Austin, who really hated Corbyn. Ian Austin ultimately prefers a Tory government to one led by Jeremy Corbyn. Like, he literally backed the Tories in the last general election. Lavery will never do that because he is like anti-austerity and pro-union, and it's just not going to happen. Like, their politics are to the right, closer to the Tories, and the Labour left's politics are not. So, I mean, yes, I think that there's a certain weddedness to a party, but yeah, I think it's really it's manifesting as a kind of timidity towards a leadership that has no interest in unity with people on the left.
Well, okay. So, Sinan, do you kind of agree with that? Do you think there's anything else going on with this kind of, prioritization they seem to be pushing to keep the party together? Like, what's your take on it?
So I wanted to go back actually to that previous question, which was that Keir Starmer's decision strategically weakened the party. I'm going to kind of surprise everyone and agree with the melt-centrist take of Chloe and be like, I'm not an inherent Starmer doomer. I think that by virtue of leading one of the top two largest parties in a first-past-the-post democracy, you have a non-zero chance of winning, and he could win. But if you could find a way to capitalize on it, you absolutely should. You should damage the party's chance of winning at the next election. That's just my position on it. You should find any means to damage it, because it's bad for the left if he wins. If you care about leftist goals, damage the party at the next election by whatever means, by hook or by crook, inside or outside the party. Even if
I think. Oh, sorry.
Well, no, hold on. So, there's a follow-up question then. Why do you think Sinan, the Labour left, aren't doing that? Why is the Socialist Campaign Group kind of pushing unity so hard?
It is the thing that Jack identified, which is that I think ultimately these are people who, if you ask them honestly, do you prefer any Labour government to any Tory government? They would say, yes, I prefer any Labour government to any Tory government that's likely to exist, right? Obviously, there are, you could have a really horrendous Labour Party that could be even worse than the Tories. There's definitely scope for that to exist, because you can see from David's current image, actually, I firmly believe that would be worse than the average Tory government. And I'm not shy about saying that. But
I'm going to, as moderator, I'm going to request you take that image down now, David. I think it's been quite long enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
The psychic damage I've taken is unacceptable, and
I'm watching Sinan get more and more agitated as it goes on.
My brain is doing the thing on stream where it starts frying live, and everyone can tell. But also, why do they prioritize it? It is an investment in Labourism, but it's also the other thing Jack said, which is these MPs believe that their constituents put them there as Labour MPs. And they, God bless them, are very honour-bound to that, it seems, beyond any and all reason. I feel like...
Yeah, you know who else is, by the way? Jeremy Corbyn. I think it's probably pretty gutting for him that he's not being allowed to, hold the position that he's been elected every single time since 1983 to hold by his constituents.
Yeah. And
okay.
And just for issuing... Again, that's a separate issue where we would get into... for putting out quite a mild statement that was in defense of himself, But
let's stay off that for now, because I think we do have an interesting question here that the chat's asked. Chloe, do you agree that it's about that kind of sense of honour as the reason they're prioritising kind of unity over other action, or do you have another take on it?
I think it is, but you also have to bear in mind that from the left's political point of view, they believe in solidarity with an organisation and sticking to the organisation's line, even if you've privately disagreed with it. That is a standard leftist practice, that you have the debate within your organisation, and maybe you're the minority that loses out, but you then stand by the position of the party. It's standard in union politics. You think this tactic is wrong, but the union comes to the decision that actually we should have a strike now, for example. You don't go out there sounding off about how the strike is at the wrong time. You say, I back the workers. That's absolute standard left politics. And so it's difficult when you're part of an organisation like the Labour Party, for people in the SCG to be putting aside their kind of lifelong positions of, if democracy has won out. And a lot of them will look at Keir Starmer winning and say that is, democracy has won there. And they believe in democracy and they believe in solidarity. And of course, they also believe in Labour. And it does mean that there's an actual real difficulty in terms of conflict with their actual politics, in terms of adopting the kind of tactics and strategy that the Labour right do.
Well, I've just put on my asbestos protective gear, so David, do you have a take on it?
I just don't really see how we can claim that a Labour win would be a good thing, and how realistically, morally, it's a moral argument to me as to whether or not it can be supported. and no shade to anyone who's on a different opinion of this from me, because it took me a little while to get to this point, and I respect that other people are going to assess it in their own way. I don't see any net good being done from a Labour government other than for the Labour right specifically, because it's only going to have one effect, and it's going to harm the Labour left more than anything else, because they're going to come in and they're going to, as soon as they win, they're going to start using, or even may even be before they win, they start using leftist language.
Okay,
And when they start using leftist language, they co-opt it. And
here's the thing, David. Here's the thing.
I think they'll move to the right, if anything.
Right.
Oh, no, they will move to the right, but they'll use leftist language and poison it the same way that, you know, basically any other Western liberal party does this.
Okay,
they'll always use the language of the left. And
hey, don't mention America, okay?
Right. I'm gonna interject here. I'm gonna remind you, David. The question was, why do you think they're prioritizing the unity vote? So I mean, we get that you think it's a terrible idea because you believe that, you know, Labour will invest, but
yeah, that is why I do think they will promote the unity. Like, I mean, the Labour right will promote the unity as well as the Labour left, because the Labour right are the ones that always shout about, what they should work together and everything else, because obviously they did such a good job of working together throughout the entire time. But it gives them the opportunity to co-opt the language of the left, because they can say, but John McDonnell's here. John McDonnell supports us. Like, that's not helpful to the left.
So you
whereas
saying
the leftist members of Labour.
Oh dear. Has it done the thing? It's done the thing again. God damn it. Apologies, everyone. There was too much doom on the thing. Let me just get my video back up. And get Discord back up. Hey, we're back. Sorry, David.
It's all right. Like, for the parliamentary members of Labour, Labourism's a disease. Like, it really is an actual. It should be certifiable as a disease, because there's no reason to continue with a broken system for that long. There's no reason to not even continue it, but actively prop it up, because that's what left-wing MPs in Labour are doing just now. They're giving a Liberal Party left-wing legitimacy by remaining. And I can't say why they're doing this. I don't understand the pathology of their decisions. They've got their own reasons for it. They'll be different between each one of them. But the fact remains that what they're doing is actually actively causing harm by propping up a liberal consensus.
Well, I mean, if I just like I just wanted to make sure nobody else wanted to come in, but like, I think like that's almost like, so there's two separate things here. For example, well, basically, staying in the party is a separate question to appealing to the unity of the party, I think, for example, because I think that those MPs believe, as I do actually, that the Labour Party is a space that should be contested by the left. It should be a site of struggle for the left. And anyone who says that the left don't belong at all in the party, I think it is wrong. I don't mean that you're talking shit. I mean, when people on the right say,
I know what you mean,
hard left trolls are alien to the party's traditions. No, it's always been cunts like them and people like us. But like, so I think that it's a part of it is a stubbornness thing. The Labour Party, like it or not, is a major part of the British democratic system. The left are, like it or not, and obviously everyone here likes it, a major part of Britain's democratic system. So why should we not have a presence in the Labour Party? I get that you could say, well, it's because it's a terrible load of shit. But
well, see, that's the thing. I don't disagree with any of that. What I disagree with is the flip side of it. Why are the right in the party? Why are the centrists in the party? Why do we allow them to be in the party? They shouldn't be there. If it's going to be a left-wing party, it should remain as such. And we've let that slip. And this is a point now that effectively we've fucked it. Like, they're in, they're not moving, they're embedded, they're terminal at this point. Like, we can't actually get them out. And as much as it's a site for, like, it's a site for struggle, like it is, but it's not somewhere we should go to struggle. It's somewhere we should go to mobilize struggle. Like, we should be able to take the struggle out of the party and actually start enacting things with it. But we can't, because it's riddled. It's just
Okay.
it's done.
Okay, well, this actually we're coming towards time, and I did have a kind of final closing question for the panel. What now for the future of the Labour Party? Where does the left go from here? Where should they go from here, and where can they practically go? And I'm gonna start with you, Chloe, and then we'll go by degrees down to the Duma take of David, who I think will send us out on a note certainly. So, Chloe, what do you think?
Well, I mean, it depends what you're thinking about the left of the Labour Party. At the grassroots level, I think members should be doing everything they can to be enmeshing their local politics with properly kind of radical left thinking. And that's everything from, if you've got a council that you can push at, to try and look at things like the Preston model, that if you have things like relationships with a tenants union, if you want to get involved with groups like UVW or IWGB in terms of the gains that they've been making on workers' rights, that you should actually, your role in the Labour Party as a left member, yes, care about the internal procedures of the Labour Party if you've got the time and the inclination to do so. But a lot of what you should be doing is trying to draw people from the party out to support the existing struggles. Perhaps like the local climate change campaigns. I know for us, a lot of Labour Party members mobilised against a local site of potential fracking. That kind of thing should be what you're doing in the left at the membership level of the Labour Party. And you should therefore be kind of trying to use the Labour Party as a route of mobilisation into the wider left struggles. If you're looking at the PLP at the top, they need to seriously get more combative, but they also need to actually start having these kind of policy listening sessions that they made a big deal of when they had control of the party, only this time with the left membership, to actually get their politics driven from the left membership and not from their own kind of political discussions. They shouldn't be looking to be the ones taking the lead. They should be being responsive to the demands of the membership. And as they are all quite inclined to feel that way about, say, for example, backing a second referendum, it shouldn't be too hard for them in the future to kind of try and drive within the party for the politics that's demanded by the membership of the left.
So, do you think then that this is an option that's likely to take place? Because it sounds, from an outside, totally neutral perspective, it sounds like a good path if you're left and you believe in the future of the Labour Party. Do you think it's likely to be taken up?
I think there's potential for it to be. I mean, you look at the change in momentum, for example, backing this resistance to evictions campaign that they've got and trying to extend outwards a bit more. That's the kind of mobilisation that we wanted. Some things are constrained at the moment because of COVID, and it makes things really difficult. But I think there's potential once you've got like the membership more mobilised to kind of push the SCG into being more responsive to them. At the moment, it's really easy at these, like, Jack was saying, the rallies are quite depressing. Well, one of the things about the rallies is that, members don't have a chance to speak to people. Once you're back to looking at things like in-person events and people being able to make their case and make the argument and push for things that they want, there's going to be a lot more pressure on the SCG to actually respond to the way that members want them to.
All right, cool. So, like I said, I'm going to do this in a sliding scale. Jack, you seem the next closest. What do you think? What now for the future of the Labour Party? Where should it go, and where do you think it will actually go?
Well, I think the problem is that though Jeremy Corbyn has been the most uniting figure for the Labour left historically, I just think that's indisputable. We no disrespect to RLB, but we tried to run a different candidate, and our coalition didn't stay together, and it didn't exist with our previous leadership candidates. But at the same time, like the personalized demonization, vilification campaign against Corbyn has been hugely successful as kind of a wedge to discredit the left as a whole. And I think that Starmer and his team have really cannily seized upon that. And they've essentially been able to drive a split in the left with their suspension of Jeremy Corbyn by continuing to pin the issue on this one person. I think that they've basically kind of they've driven a wedge in the left where people are kind of starting to blame each other, and I think that the recent books that have come out on the last 5 years in the Labour Party have contributed to this atmosphere. But I think that my personal view is that we must defend Jeremy Corbyn. We must unequivocally do so because he's being attacked as a proxy for the left as a whole. But I understand when people say that the focus on him is has been him as an individual has kind of, it distracts from the wider issues that the left should be concerned with. I think the issue is that, like I say, it's when people talk about Jeremy Corbyn, a lot of the time, it's a proxy for talking about the left as a whole. So I think we're almost seeing kind of like a Kinnock style split in the left at the moment between those who have basically said, okay, look, there's a new deal, we're going to try and work with this. And those who kind of just aren't really willing to go along with that. And I think there's a big, obviously, I think it's about half and half split in the Socialist Campaign group in terms of those people. But I wonder how things can go on with a Labour left that is feeling increasingly shut out, increasingly marginalised, and increasingly not spoken for by its own leadership. I'm sorry, I've summed up my views really badly there, I think. And
I don't think so. I think we follow where you're at with it. So
yeah, well, I think that's about it anyway. You know, I worry that the focus, although I personally feel that it is a necessity to defend Jeremy Corbyn pretty unequivocally, that the fact that they have made that the dividing line is gonna be difficult, because the fact that he's an ex-leader who just lost an election is gonna mean that a lot of people aren't willing to stick up for him, and that in itself kind of creates a divide.
Yeah, creates a wedge for the party, for the party's left specifically. Well, it's an interesting take. For a slightly darker shade of take, Sinan. So what do you think? Future of the Labour Party, where should it go and where do you think it will go?
The Labour Party should go in the bin. That's my general position, as has been well established tonight. It doesn't deserve to exist. The party does not deserve to exist in its current incarnation. No party has the right to exist, really, but the Labour Party especially doesn't have the right to exist. And if you are a leftist in Labour, your duty is to do what Jack said and defend Jeremy Corbyn. You are obligated to defend him, in my view, because he is a proxy for all of your views. And and as we discovered, the longer you let something just sort of exist in the popular consciousness, the bigger the problem is at dealing with it later. So it's, you are obligated to defend them, and you are also obligated to borrow the parlance of a particularly niche campaign, even among all of the pro-EU campaigns. You are obligated to remain in revolt. If you decide that spending your £5 a month is what you want to do to exist in this party filled with people who hate you, you should remain in revolt. Or if you prefer Sabaton songs, resist and bite. Whatever means you have at your disposal, you should use them, all of them, and in the most horrible way you can against the right. Even make it personal if you have to, honestly. You should drive these people through a mill, metaphorically in Minecraft. But
all right, okay, I'm gonna step in here because I'm afraid I don't want to see this stream taken down. I'm looking after it on behalf of Sinan, and I don't like the panel here wrecking it for him.
Yeah. Okay. My own stream. But
jokes aside, right? Fine. Where do you think it'll actually go?
Where it will actually go is it will go to an incredibly mediocre 2024 election run on an incredibly weak platform with a much weaker left at the parliamentary level, because these people will parachute in candidates. They will find excuses to suspend leftists. They will, and the SCG will not, I'm afraid, get the backbone required to actually fight this. You need to be prepared, if you are a left parliamentarian, to do whatever you can for left politics, even if that means going up against the Labour Party in an election. I'm sorry, that is what it means. If it is bad for left politics for the Labour Party to win, you must fight the Labour Party, no matter what level of, elected official you are. That's just my personal feeling on it.
Well, I think that's pretty strongly put. David, now, I'm going to modify your question slightly, because we all know what you think should happen to the Labour Party, right? That's just crystal clear. So I'm asking the first part instead as, what do you think the left, not just Labour, but the broad left, what do you think the broader left should do?
A lot of what Siren was just saying there. If you're in the party, then you've got to do what you can while you're in the party. You've got to be vocal in your support for Corbyn. You've got to be aggressive towards any hostile or bad motions that come up in your CLP. You've got to vote well, but at the same time, you've also got to consider, what is your £5 a month propping up? What is your doorstepping really going to be supporting? What are you going to end up with if you do win? Because is it really something that's everybody needs to have a struggle session?
Okay,
really, if they're still in Labour.
Right, fine. But if they're not in Labour, if you're a leftist in the UK who's not in Labour, what should you be doing?
If you're not in Labour, then you should be joining other organisations. Join Acorn, join a renters union, do anything like that. Network with other people. A lot of the people in places like Acorn, especially, they aren't actually specifically politically aligned, and it's not a platform for that, but it's a good place to network with people who might be open to similar ideas as you. If you're in a workplace that's got a union, join a union. If you're in a workplace without a union, start a union. Just organise. And I know it's played out as all hell to say that, but at least you will be doing something that makes a material difference to, if not all of us, at least someone nearby you, maybe even you. That's what I would say really is the job. And don't vote Labour is something else that they should do or not do.
Okay. Well,
so if you're not in Labour, you can speak up for Corbyn without any repercussions really easily. So do that.
Oh yes.
Okay.
Definitely do that.
But the last part, David, is right. Where do you think, David? You've said what you think Labour should be destroyed. You've said what you think you should do if you're in and out of a party. What do you think will actually happen? Round us out. What
I think will actually happen is going to be a slow and painful comedy of unfunny jokes as errors. It's really not going to be enjoyable to watch. It's going to just become painful watching something that was good die a very slow and drawn out death. We're going to have more crap decisions made by the leadership. We're going to have a policy platform that begins to twist much closer to something that's just extremely Tory light. You're going to see seats starting to flip quite dramatically with a Lib Dem surge of all things, because without the left uniting behind a new party, that is what will happen. And so you're going to see the resurgence of that. You may even see Joe Swinson come back. We don't know.
Hell yeah.
I've just
made
the sign of the cross to ward off that particular future. So I'm like Christian as a joke. So okay. Well,
I totally back the SNP in Joe Swinson's seat. My SNP comrades, let's do this.
Right, okay, hang on.
That is the only seat I will support the SNP in.
I need a buzzer. I'm hitting the emergency eject button. We're not doing Scott Paul tonight.
Sorry, we all support the SNP now.
We already did a Scottish stream, and it's on my YouTube. So
we're cyber nats.
Oh God,
cyber nats.
Well, and then you said you wanted this panel to run to about 8:30.
Yeah.
We're 8:30 now. I think that's a pretty good kind of stopping point. So thank you to the panel, and I now relinquish my centrist melting crown and hand it back to Sinan.
And it re-solidifies on my head because anyway. Everyone, thank you to James for hosting. You did a fantastic job. You didn't get the stream banned. I almost got the stream banned, to be fair. So, thanks to the other panelists who were great as always. I've had them on before. I'll have them on again whenever we get a cool topic. If you enjoyed that and you're new here, follow me, please. Please follow me. And also please subscribe because I need to eat food. Strangely, that's my one weakness, the fact that I'm weak. any of the panel, if you have anything that you need to plug, podcasts, for example, I know that that's a big thing these days among certain people. So we'll go from Chloe across for their plugs and saying goodbye.
Yeah, so I am on the COMRADIO podcast. We do kind of Labour-aligned politics and some theory stuff, and we occasionally do some cultural stuff. It goes a range, and we try and look at it all from a left-wing perspective. So do listen to us. You can follow us on Twitter. We're at COMRADIO UK, and we also tweet from the group that kind of COMRADIO spun out from, which is the Second Row group, which is at Second Row Labour. So you can follow us there as well. We'd love to have some more listeners. That's always good.
Right, Jack, go for it.
Yeah, check out Reel Politik at mikegapes.co.uk, all one word.
Yep.
That's where you can find the podcast. Follow us on Twitter at rpcoreintel, and subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/realpolitik, and also on our SoundCloud page. Check out our psychedelic audio drama Gapecast, which we've now got 19 episodes of. Tells stories from all throughout Mike Gapes' life, from his assassination of John F. Kennedy in 1963 to his defeat at the last general election. Yeah, all the way back to his upbringing in post-war Vienna. So I highly recommend that people check out the Gapecast.
The Gapecast is great.
And I hope that one day you have its head writer, Faraj's fucked face, on your stream to talk about it.
I almost certainly will. I think they follow the stream, so I will have them on. David.
Yeah, podcasting's Praxis. Nearly weekly episodes, I suppose, is probably the best way to say it. It's probably halfway between COMRADIO and Reel Politik. It's a bit shit posty. It's a bit lighter on the theory than COMRADIO is, but we're here. You can find us on Twitter at PraxisCast. We are on Podbean, Spotify, iTunes, everywhere basically. So just pop in Podcasting as Praxis and you'll find us there. We also have some t-shirts, one design of which is as such.
I'm also
and the
wearing
Normal
one.
Island one as modelled by our good man Sinan.
Yep.
So yeah, you can find us. You can find the t-shirts at teespring.com/stores/PraxisCast, and yeah, and if you want to follow me, it's at Sanitary Nap Time.
And to round us off, James, our wonderful host.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with David on PraxisCast. Podcasting is Praxis, so you can, if you want to hear me give actual takes rather than play the melt, then you're very welcome to give us a follow. And I'm on Twitter as @anarchanbury. I'll stick that in the Twitch chat for you all. And that's it. I don't really have anything to plug per se.
Yeah. I'm going to once again remind you all to follow and subscribe to this stream because, again, sadly, I need to purchase beverages and eat food. We're going to raid my friend Jen because they are having a stream and they deserve some viewers. They're on free viewers. We're going to raid them and see if we can pick up those numbers. Anyway, catch me on Sunday. I'm going to be playing Hearts of Iron 4 with end participation. We're going to be finally vanquishing the fascist menace from the Balkans once and for all. And we're going to finally invade Britain and bring communism to it, as we should and must, in fact, in real life.
Hell
but
yes.
Otherwise, it's goodbye from me and good night. Take it easy, everyone. Bye.
Good night.
Take it easy.
Bye.
Fuck off.